First up, the story that continues to dominate headlines. As it approaches its one-year anniversary, the conflict, remember, in the Middle East is dangerously close to spiraling into what many are saying is a multi-nation conflict now. Now, that's because in just the last 2 weeks, Israel has decimated the hierarchy of the terror group that is the Hezbollah in Lebanon. After pager blasts and also walkie-talkie blasts, we've seen precision aerial strikes, rocket assaults that have also taken out the Hezbollah's top leadership. And in the latest, you have Israel that has launched massive ground operations onto Lebanon as well. While Hezbollah has come under fire to Israel's north, well to its south, the Houthis in Yemen have also been struck. So in the meantime, you also have a conflict in Gaza that continues as well, with the Hamas remaining in Israel and Mossad's crosshairs, and there have been blasts that have been reported in neighboring Syria's capital of Damascus. Now, it's important to note as well that Israel isn't only an aggressor here. All the regimes against it, including Iran, have launched rockets or drone attacks against Israel, though few have been able to hit their mark because of Israel's very sophisticated defense capabilities. This includes the Iron Dome missile defense system. First up, let's hear what Israel has said to its enemies unequivocally.
אנחנו רואים היום את התקיפה במרחק של 2,000 קילומטר בחודדה ובסביבתה, וההישגים כמו שהם משתקפים לנו הם מאוד מרשימים, והמשמעות היא ברורה. מי שמנסה לתקוף אותנו או לפגוע באזרחי ישראל ישלם מחיר כבד מאוד. אין לנו עניין להרחיב את המלחמה, אין לנו עניין לחפש חזיתות נוספות, אבל אם מישהו יתקוף את ישראל כמו שעשו החות'ים לאחרונה בטילים ולאורך כל המלחמה בתקק ובתלשים ובכטב"מים, כל אחד שיבצע פעולה כזאת, אנחנו נבוא איתו חשבון, ואנחנו יודעים לעשות את זה במקביל לדברים אחרים. ביום הזה חיל האוויר, צה"ל, תקפו גם בלבנון וגם בעזה וגם כאן, ואנחנו יכולים לפעול בעוד מקומות.
כל מי שפוגע, מנסה לפגוע באזרחי מדינת ישראל, נגיע אליו. זה הכי פשוט, ונעמיד כל ערכה שנצטרך עם כל יכולת שיש לנו, ויש לנו פה עוד יכולות רבות להעמיק, להרחיב את הפגיעה.
And do remember, as this escalation has taken place, you also have the US that completely backs Israel. It terms the Israel's right to self-defense. All this is coming even as the US President Biden has stated that escalation should be avoided at all costs. Listen in to what we've heard from him, followed also by a report that comes in from the United States.
Can all-out war in the Middle East be avoided? It has to be. We really have to avoid it. We've already taken precautions relative to our embassies and personnel who want to leave, but we're not there yet. But we're working like hell with the French and many others to see the good work.
Lebanon is on fire after Israel's weekend assassination of Hezbollah's leader, a move that threatens to let loose a wider war in the region. On Monday, President Joe Biden was unequivocal about what needs to happen next.
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
But the question is how? How is Washington, Israel's main weapons supplier, going to pull the plug on this violence? VOA asked the White House.
Our policy has not changed. It just hasn't. It has not changed.
Lebanon's leaders say they have no faith in Israel's intentions.
The government is doing everything in its power to confront this destructive, hateful war that Israel is waging against us. And we went to the United Nations looking for a solution, and we met with world leaders. But the enemy went with the intention of treachery and planning more massacres.
And Israel's leader indicated Monday that he is digging in for a fight.
We are at war for our very existence. We will join forces, go hand in hand, and defeat our enemies.
Meanwhile, Washington is joined by other powers in begging for this to stop.
There is still hope, but time is short. I therefore urge Israel to refrain from any ground incursions and to a ceasefire. I call on Hezbollah to do the same, and to refrain from any action likely to lead to regional destabilization.
Analysts say Biden and allies have given Netanyahu options to stop the violence by pushing for a 21-day ceasefire in Lebanon and a deal to free hostages held by Hamas in Gaza as a step toward ending that conflict.
Unfortunately, I would say that the history of their conversations over the past year has been that regardless of what the president's arguments are, regardless of what he has pushed, Benjamin Netanyahu is following his own course and is not responding to U.S. concerns or advice.
For the people of southern Lebanon and for the region, these are not abstract discussions. This is a matter of life or death.
Let's also try and understand what happens from here on. Remember, we've just seen that tweet that came in from the Prime Minister just about late last evening, where he said he's had a conversation with Netanyahu. And the Prime Minister also does assert that terrorism is a problem across the world. Rishabh continues to stay with us, and he's been getting us more perspective. Rishabh, you know, time and again, we've heard strong words that have come in from New Delhi. But you've seen a highly polarized world. There are also people here who are a votary of the Hezbollah and, you know, Nasrallah only because this possibly can help them consolidate a few votes. How is it that you're looking at New Delhi, you know, looking at the entire story, perhaps through an intervention, perhaps through a dialogue? What is the larger sense you're getting?
Well, definitely. See, India has always been of the opinion that dialogue and diplomacy can change things when it comes to Central West Asia, for that matter. When it comes to Gaza versus Israel, India has been very clear that a two-state solution with well-guarded and well-defined border where both Israel and Palestine can coexist is something that is a feasible option, and that is the only option that will stop the struggle that has been known as cursed war for years. Having said that, now when we're talking, when Lebanon has also been dragged in this whole war conflict, and Hezbollah is being targeted by Israel, there is a fear that this war can convert into a regional conflict, and that is something that the world is not ready for, is what be it India, be it US, or anyone in Europe or elsewhere believe. And that's the reason that the world leaders are trying to speak to Israel and try and de-escalate the situation in West Asia.
All right, Rishabh, for the moment, thank you for getting us that entire perspective. Let's also listen in to how a lot of other defense experts have spoken on the latest series of their escalations. What is their understanding, and what is it that they see in the days and the weeks to come?
The war in Ukraine, Palestine, Gaza is now slowly spreading to Lebanon and Yemen, besides Syria, as also the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea channels and the Gulf of Aden. What are the pivotal global crises that are taking place? There are forced displacements in Palestine and Gaza, as also giving rise to famine risk. In Ukraine, infrastructure damage and lives are in danger. In Syria, destruction, displacement and spread of diseases. Similarly, in Lebanon, there is destruction and the spread of various kinds of diseases taking place. There are severe humanitarian crises being generated in Yemen.
The whole energy block of the world, the biggest block, will get affected. And you know, when energy prices, when diesel price, petrol price, everything goes up, gas price go up. So everything else goes up. Transportation gets expensive. Day-to-day things like even vegetables being carried from one place to another, everything gets affected. So the impact, if I had to summarize it, it is going to be very, very adverse. India, the biggest strength we have is we can actually survive.
This shows that in the coming days, the economy of the world is going to be impacted very severely. We have to prepare for that, and it is better for India that we look into alternatives to ensure that our way of growth that is going on today does not get impacted at all. Because these wars are not going to stop so soon, and the people behind getting these wars, or rather supporting these various groups, are not going to let go very easily.
But remember, there is another angle to the entire story, and that's about diplomacy. That's about foreign policy that concerns India in this conflict as well. And that is also because you have the Prime Minister, who's earlier spoken to Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last evening and also given a twofold message to him. The Prime Minister said that escalation should be avoided, but also added that there is no place for terrorism in the world today. To this, you have the Congress that is raising a lot of objections. They are asking why the Prime Minister is attempting to resolve conflicts overseas when back home here they say that Manipur continues to burn in India. At the same time, you also have India that has been a witness to a curious set of prayer meetings, protest over the assassination of the Hezbollah chief Nasrallah. This is after you have the PDP and some other Jammu and Kashmir politicians even seeking official days of mourning in India over Nasrallah's killing. In the latest, you also have the CPI that has questioned the union government and the Prime Minister as well.
The question is, what is our stand as far as this genocide that is being perpetrated by the Israeli armed forces is concerned? We have taken the atrocious step of remaining neutral in the General Assembly